We want to give a huge welcome to all the virtual members of Columbine United Church. As always, it is so good to have you here. Those of you who are taking time out of your daily lives, those of you across the United States, some of you on the other side of the pond, are men and women in uniform. Many of you kind of dial in to kind of make sure that you kind of stay connected to Columbine United Church. We want to give you a special, huge welcome and know you are always in our thoughts and prayers. As always, I want to tell you to not just watch this video, but post it on your Facebook page. Send it to someone who you know needs to hear this message. You know, we're Columbine United Church. We change the way people think about God. Let's give these folks a huge Columbine welcome. Yeah, very good. Our scripture reading this morning comes to us from the Gospel of Matthew, the 14th chapter, verses 22 through 23. Listen for God's word as it comes to us today. As soon as the meal was finished, he, being Jesus, he insisted that the disciples get in the boat and go on ahead to the other side while he dismissed the people. With the crowd dispersed, he climbed the mountain. You know, he didn't cry when I was holding him. Sorry, we did a baptism just a moment ago. While he dismissed the people. With the crowd dispersed, he climbed the mountain so he could be by himself and pray. He stayed there alone late into the night. Meanwhile, the boat was far out to sea on the Sea of Galilee, when the wind came up against them and they were battered by the waves. At about 4 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them walking on the water. They were scared out of their wits. "A ghost!" they said, crying out in terror. But Jesus was quick to comfort them. "Courage! It's me! Don't be afraid!" Peter, suddenly bold, said, "Master, if it is really you, call me to come to you on the water." Jesus said, "You go, girl, go for it!" Jumping out of the boat, Peter walked on the water to Jesus. But when he looked down at the waves churning beneath his feet, he lost his nerve and started to sink. He cried, "Master, save me!" Jesus didn't hesitate. He reached down and grabbed his hand. Then he said, "Faint heart, what got into you?" The two of them climbed into the boat and the wind died down. The disciples in the boat, having watched the whole thing, worshiped Jesus, saying, "This is it. You are God's Son for sure." And here the reading ends. May God bless these words now as we seek to apply them to our lives. The art of walking. The art of walking. Maybe you realize that there's a real kind of a theme to this service today, the art of walking. And it's because, there's a lot of walking that is going on around metropolitan Denver today. Downtown, there is the Race for the Cure, the Susan B. Komen. How many of you have ever done the Race for the Cure? Why don't you put your hand up so I can see? Kind of look around. This is really cool. You know, it's always on a Sunday morning. The first year I retire, I'm really looking forward to going to being a part of this. And then the Second Wind Fund. You've heard us talk about the Second Wind Fund. We have our goal was to have 100 people. Now we have like 105 people. Breatha Mai is standing back there at the Breatha. Why don't you wave? Breatha has really headed this up. Breatha and Fred. Let's give them a huge round of applause. Very cool. Very cool. And because there's so much walking, I decided to include it in our fall sermon series, The Art of. I really believe that God has intended for us to have this huge abundant life, a wonderful abundant life. But to really kind of realize that abundant life and to step into that abundant life, it's kind of an art form. You have to kind of learn how to do certain things. And that's why we're looking at, last week was the art of forgiveness, today the art of walking. We're going to be looking at the art of failure, the art of being different, the art of humor. So there's some fun sermons that are coming. But today, the art of walking. It's something that we all do, but we take for granted. And I want you to think about walking, and you're walking. That I decided to do a study on walking and to kind of watch how different people walk. So I went to Walmart. Yeah, I had some pictures. I said, no, I probably can't put them up. But everybody kind of walks a little bit different. And it's something yet we all do. We all have our unique thing. And hopefully you all enjoy walking. I want you to think about for just a second, Where do you enjoy walking? What is your favorite place that you have ever walked before? And this is kind of, Kathy, I'm going to kind of walk out here in the center aisle of it, so track with me. So where's some of the favorite places that you've ever walked? The Grand Canyon. How many of you have walked from the top to the bottom at the top again of the Grand Canyon? Raise your hand. Few of you. How many of you walked kind of along the rim of the Grand Canyon, along the Big Dicks? Yeah, beautiful place. Boy, if you're not been there, you got to go. Well, who else has got a really neat place that you've walked? The beach. Which beach? Mission Beach in San Diego, the beach that I grew up on. That's a beautiful. How many of you been to the beaches of Southern California? Yeah, baby. We should all go on vacation. I love it. What are some other cool places that you've walked?
Some of the Longs Peak.
Some. Have you been to the top of Longs Peak? Yeah, you know, it was really cool. So we did this at the 8 o'clock. 14ers. How many of you have climbed a 14er? Okay, look around, everybody. Okay, put your hands down. How many of you have climbed at least 5 14ers? Okay. How many of you have climbed at least 10 14ers? How many of you have cleaned? How many of you have cleaned at least 10 14ers? How many of you have climbed 20 14ers? Okay, put your hands up so we can see them. 20. Oh wait, we're not done. We're not done. 20. How many? 30 14ers. 35 14ers. Do you know, so first of all, let's give these guys a round. How many of you climbed? 16? 13? How many? 13? How many of you climbed? Wow, 32. You know, Jerry Kepke has climbed every single 14er that we have in Colorado. And I was reminded that Darlene, Kathy Brown, help me, Darlene Bettler has climbed every single 14er and the majority of the 13ers in the state of Colorado. So other unique places that you've walked? Aww! 1, 2, 3. Ah, yeah, someone said it right now. Points, baby, points. Points. Now that's pretty creative. I didn't think about that. Redwood Forest. How many of you been to the Redwood Forest? Okay, other creative place, Wayne? Himalayas. How many of you ever climbed the Himalayas? 1, 2, 2. You know, Julian, Kilimanjaro. Elizabeth Foster is going to teach yoga on Tuesday night. She summited Kilimanjaro, so that was pretty cool. Other beautiful places? There is really, that's not a figment of your imagination? Is that in New Zealand?
Yes.
Very cool. Very cool. It's one of my bucket lists to go to New Zealand, yeah? What? The black sand beaches of New Zealand. Wow. One more. Waterton Canyon. Do you know one of my favorite memories is walking Waterton Canyon in a driving snowstorm and having the bighorn sheep come down out of the mountains through the snow? God, that was just amazing. All right, did you have one? We'll do one more. Carlsbad. I've never been to Carlsbad Cavern. Is it cool? Is it pretty cool? How many of you have been to Carlsbad Cavern? Yeah. You know, walking, Kathy, I'm going back up to the front. It's amazing how walking is such an important part of our life. In fact, the average human being living to the age of 80, if they live to the age of 80, and you're of relative health, you will have taken 216,252,500 steps. This equates to 110,000 miles. Clay, are you impressed with my math? 2 Sundays now in a row. Impressive, isn't it? Equates to 110,000 miles, which means you have circumnavigated the world 4 times. Boy, you're in better shape than you thought. Mitch at the 8 o'clock service said, yeah, I'm going to start taking it easy all of a sudden. You know, and if you're kind of a fitness buff and you do a lot of walking, if you do a lot of running, you can actually double that. That's how much walking is going on. You know, Jesus was a huge walker. There's actually people who have studied this. You know, I Googled how far has Jesus walked. in the 3 years, that he was doing ministry, it's estimated that Jesus walked between 20 and 25 miles a day, which is kind of part and parcel of that culture. It was a walking culture, 20 to 25 miles a day. He walked at least 18,000 miles in those 3 years going back and forth to Nazareth. In those 3 years total, back and forth to Jerusalem, In those 3 years, it's like over 32,000 miles that he walked. Boy. He walked up and down mountains. He walked through the wilderness. He walked with groups. He walked solo. He walked on water. He walked on water. You know, it is one of the most popular stories from the New Testament. You know, when you ask people, what stories do you know from the Bible? What do you know about Jesus? Most of them say, well, he walked on water. And then there was that guy who tried to walk on. Most people know this amazing story, and there's some beautiful art around it. Could you kill the lights? I want people to see the richness of this beautiful painting of Jesus out on the storm. And So, you know, the story is that he sent the disciples ahead of him after they fed the 5,000 so he could be by himself to pray. So the disciples out there crossing the Sea of Galilee. Now, how many of you have seen the Sea of Galilee? Yeah, you know, it's not an ocean. It's about like Horsetooth Reservoir size. It's like Lake Granby size. And so it's, while it's big, it's not gargantuan. But a wind can blow up, and a storm can blow up. And they're in the middle of the storm, middle of the sea, and middle of the lake rather, and the storm blows up and it's just tossing them around. So the fact that they're terrified, hanging on for dear life, and in the middle of it, Jesus comes walking across on the water, and they look out and they see him. It's a ghost. And Jesus says, "Don't worry, it's me." And then Peter says, "If it is you, Lord, bid me to come to you." And Jesus says, "You go, girl." Go, come. And Peter walks out. And he's walking on the water. It was really interesting. If you kind of get into the story, when Jesus said, "Come," I think there was a hush in the boat as the disciples forgot there was a storm. And they're looking at Peter. And Peter gulps. And then something shifts inside of Peter. And something motivates him to put his hands on the gunwales and take a foot and step out onto the water. And it holds. And the other disciples are watching. And he takes a step, and then another step, and a third step. And he's thinking to himself, "I'm doing it. I'm walking on water. And then it hits him. I'm walking on water. And whoof, down he goes. Look at this beautiful painting. See this? Oh, it didn't do it on. Please do it. There. Look at that painting. Do you understand what you're looking at? You are Peter looking up at Jesus, his hand, and look at the smile on Jesus' face. You know, he's reaching out. What is that smile saying? The smile saying, "I got you, man. I got you. Of course I got you." And look at it's a smile of pride. It's a smile of pride. You did it. You know, and he pulls him up. And he puts him in the boat, and he says, "Why did you doubt? Oh, you of little faith." And the disciples looked at Jesus, and they were so amazed that they worshiped him. The story is so compelling. It's so compelling. You know, for me, the first question that I ask is, why did Jesus tell Peter to come? I mean, He could have said, oh, you stay in the boat. In fact, put your life preserver on. Lash yourself to the mast. You're not good. You are no Messiah, Peter. No. Jesus says, come. You know what I hear in that? Is that Jesus is not afraid of risk. In fact, Jesus somehow knows that if you're ever going to move forward in your life, you're going to have to take a step. You're going to have to take one step. And sometimes it's that one step, that first step that is so hard. I learned that this past summer. Many of you know that I've been on a real journey of health this year, and it was in early June that I thought I had a heart attack when I was mowing the grass. And I was pushing the lawnmower, and I kind of pushed hard, and everything stopped. My heart stopped, my lungs stopped. And it was only for 5 seconds. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. And it was right here where I started thinking, oh, they're going to find me dead beside the lawnmower. And I swear you can feel the planet move. And I remember telling myself, just take one step. 4 1,000, and I couldn't. I said, this is it. And then at 5 1,000, it all started. And it feels that way. It feels that way when you're suddenly unemployed. It feels that way when your spouse dies. It feels that way when a marriage breaks up. It feels that way when something exciting happens. And in some ways, it's like you're so thrilled, but at the same time, it's like, can I? And that first step can be so hard. But Jesus is not afraid of that step, of you taking a risk, of you betting the farm, of you laying it all on the line. He is not afraid. And so the question really becomes, so where do you need to take that risk? Where do you need to take that first step? The other thing I love is the reason why Jesus told Peter to come on is because Peter threw down to God. You don't throw down to God without putting on your walking shoes. Because you throw down to God, God's going to hear it. Peter threw down, if it is you, Lord. Jesus goes, it's me, baby. You better get moving. Because there's no, sorry, just joking. I've done that before. I said, come on, God, I need this door to open up. And the door opens up and it's like, I don't think I can, after all. See, when you throw down, because when you throw down and you say, God, if I'm supposed to leave this job, give me a sign. God, if I'm supposed to have this new relationship, give me a sign. God, if you are there, give me a sign. And the problem is we expect skywriting. I want you to get a new job. It rarely happens that way, But what God does is God releases the angels. I finally found a picture of Mitch's poker-playing, smoking angels. You've all heard Mitch talk about. Why don't you say it in your own words?
Cigarette-smoking, poker-playing angels.
That you got a bunch of angels around you, and they sit here and they kind of go, is Mitch ever going to get serious? I'm going to play cards because he's never going to be serious. But as soon as Mitch says, I think I should do something, Mitch says that his angels go, what? They put the cigarette out, put the cards down, they say, well, let's see if he's going to be serious. And then if Mitch starts taking a step, if Mitch throws down to God, the angels go, he's serious! Woof. And when you throw down to God, you know what happens? God does things. God sends you people. God sends you books. Haven't you ever walked into a library and suddenly a book goes, what, into your hands? Or you go into, there's a magazine, what? All of a sudden there's a website, somebody sends you something, either on Facebook or they tweet something out to you and you go, man, I needed to hear that. You don't want to come to church. You'd rather be on a beautiful fall day, going up, look at the leaves, but something inside you says, I got to go to church. And so you come to church and you kind of hear something kind of goes, boom. You hear a song, boom. And that's God's way of saying, ha, you threw down. Because the problem is usually we do this. You throw down to God, you better get ready to move. But for me, the biggest reason why I think what shifted inside of Peter is because he knew he wanted to leave certain prints and not other prints. Now, I'm dressed casual today. We're kind of having fun. So I'm going to read a little poem that's a little on the side that most people go, oh, he's reading that in church. It's my favorite Christian poem. This is what Peter didn't want to have Jesus. Oh, first of all, that's right, thank you. Peter finds his faith to be much stronger in the winter. It really has nothing to do, but I found it, oh, that's so funny, I had to put it in. All right, this poem, butt prints in the sand. Hush if you've heard the... One night I had a wondrous dream. One set of footprints there was seen, the footprints of my precious Lord. But mine were not along the shore. But then some stranger prints appeared, and I asked the Lord, what have we here? These prints are large and round and neat, but Lord, they are too big for feet. My child, he said in somber tones, for miles I carried you alone. I challenged you to walk in faith, but you refused and made me wait. You disobeyed, you would not grow. The walk of faith you would not know. So I got tired, I got fed up, and there I dropped you on your butt. Because in life, there comes a time when one must fight and one must climb, when one must rise and make a stand, or leave your butt prints in the sand. Author unknown. See, I don't think Peter wanted to leave butt prints in the boat. Because I think that's what shifted. That's what shifted inside of Peter. He didn't want to just stay in the boat. There's something about Peter that said, it's time to go, it's time to move, it's time to get out. The master's invited me to take a risk. I need to take the first step. I want to go forward. Are you going forward? Are you taking the risk? A quote, this is a quote that Mitch and I pass back and forth. I'd rather have a life of oh wells than a life of what ifs. Oh well, at least we tried. Oh well, it's really funny is, so I wrote a book, woohoo! Rejection, not on the bestseller. Got some scathing reviews. Oh well, at least you tried. You tried. Versus, I really want to write a book, but like what if? better to risk and fail. I mean, you need to learn how to fail. That's what we're going to talk about, the art of failure. It's okay to fail. It's faithful to fail. Failure teaches you where the bumpers are. You know, if you lead and your success, that's great. I mean, if you take a risk and you succeed, that means you lead, right? Did I say that right? If you take a risk and you succeed, you lead. If you take a risk and you fail, you guide. You guide others. I've always loved that. That's given me the courage to keep on failing. You know that we live by faith, not by sight. When Jesus says to Peter, "Oh, you of little faith," what is he talking about? Faith in Jesus? Faith in God? No. I believe Jesus says, faith in yourself. What Peter lost was faith in himself. That's why he fell through. Because what got him out is he knew inside himself he had the skills and the abilities to do it. He had the faith in himself. And he lost it. Do you have faith in yourself? Think right now. Name it. Do you have faith in yourself? In your skills, in your abilities, in the reason why you are on the planet? Do you have faith in yourself? If not, why not? Because you know what? God has faith in you. If God didn't have faith in you, then the sun would not be rising. If God did not have faith in you, there would not be another day. God has faith in you because every single day is a new opportunity to get out of the boat and walk. I just have one question. What kind of prince are you leaving?